Okay, welcome back to another author interview at Crystal Lake. And today our guest is Paula Cappa, and we will be discussing her new book, Wolf Magic. And I'm going to let her introduce herself today. So take it away.
Thank you, Anita. Happy to be here. Yeah, my book is Wolf Magick, Secret Mysteries of Draakensky. And this is a standalone read, but it is a companion novel to the novel Draakensky, a supernatural tale of magic and romance. And it continues the story of Charlotte and Marc and their life on Draakensky Windmill Estate. A lot of people think this story is about werewolves because there's a wolf on the cover, but it's not. It's about shapeshifters. So Marc and it's really more Marc's story, whereas in Draakensky it was more Charlotte's story. So they have to battle ancestral magic. They battle shadow wolves from the other world and witchcraft.
Okay, so give readers a little overview of what the book is about. What can they expect?
Uh, well, it's contemporary dark fantasy, Gothic. Um, Marc is 39 years old, and he discovers, as he is known for quite a while, that he has an ability to transform into a wolf. So this is shape shifting, and it's an inherited ability. And he is fighting it, denying it, resisting it. So that opens a story that he is resisting what he is destined to do, which I can't talk too much about because it gives away a little bit of the story. And he's crazy in love with Charlotte and wants to marry her. And he really is focusing on building his relationship with Charlotte. So the story opens with the conflict of him fighting this, wanting to establish a stronger relationship with Charlotte, and then his mother appears on the scene. It's a forbidden marriage for a lot of reasons, and she's there. She wants to stop the marriage. So that's the opening of the story. It goes on and it gets very complicated. There's a little witchcraft going on, so they have to deal with that as well. So it has to do with forbidden love, romance, um, dark shadow wolves that are hunting Marc, and how he is fighting this destiny and creating a new destiny.
Mm. Yeah, it sounds almost like you got a little hint of romantasy in there too. So
Yes, just enough.
so tell us about the main character. What kind of an emotional journey does he go through in the book?
A lot of fear because he he ends up transforming and he fights it and he stops it along the way, of course. And that's the first half of the book, is that he's just not going to do this. And they are after him. They want him to image forth his wolf for very specific reasons. So it's this conflict going on with that. And then there's the conflict of Charlotte doesn't really know what's going on here, and he doesn't want her to know. So he's keeping that under wraps, and he's trying to hide that throughout. And of course, it does come up, and she does find out about it. So once that happens, it creates another conflict, because what is she going to do with this now? Is she going to leave him because she doesn't want to be involved with a man with this kind of a horror? So it is a romance, and it is dark. And the wolves, there's a 15 wolves is in this wolf pack that are after him. So it gets pretty intense as the story goes on.
Mm,
And it
mm,
all
so
takes place on Drakensky Windmill Estate and on Marc's property as well.
mm. Yeah, well, it does sound very intriguing. So, as you said, Wolf Magic is a standalone novel set in your world of Dragon Skies. But so, what part of the world did you want to explore in this book?
I think the mystery of magic, because Drakensky is a magical property. There's a lot of there's nature magic going on there, and water magic, tree magic, owl magic. So I wanted to get into more of the mystery of how magic works and shape-shifting magic. So I did a lot of study about that. Um, it was very exciting for me to learn about that because I hadn't really written about anything that far. I'm usually ghost stories, so that's kind of limited. But with the shadow wolves and the history of their goal, um, I really had to learn how magic is performed. So I studied magic. And the first thing that really came to me was William Butler Yeats. He wrote a lot of poetry, very metaphysical, but he wrote about magic. And he wrote in this article, The Good and Evil. He says that magic comes from spirits that either in your conscious mind or outside of your conscious mind. So I was exploring what Yeats meant with that. And you can find it in his poetry. And I do have some of his poetry in the story, which plays into the plot as well. So it has to do with studying the mystery of magic. And it's still mysterious to me.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's what makes it so fun.
Yes.
Okay, so as you said, you are delving into the shapeshifters in this book, and shapeshifters has a lot of mythology in various forms. So, especially with the wolf shifting. So, what sources did you base your lore on, and did you put any of your own twists into it?
Well, from Yeats, yeah, there was a lot. I read a lot of his poetry and one particular poem, which is in the story. But to get the historical values, John Kachuba has a book called Shapeshifters, A History, and that covers all of the shapeshifting history that goes on. So I learned a lot from him. I read a lot of other shapeshifting books, other kinds of things that I found online. So I really had to get into the mindset of the wolf. So I really had to understand what it is like for a man or a woman to shapeshift their consciousness into a beastly animal here that has a particular goal. So a lot of it was dream therapy kind of thing. You know, you just kind of dream up images about things from the history that I read and from the research I did. So the twists, I can't talk about the twists because that'll give it away. But yes, there's a couple of twists in there that are mine.
Okay, so did you base it mostly on like Western European style shapeshifting, or did you throw in any of like, say, other Asian cultures or the indigenous people of North America as well?
No, I didn't. It's really just more modern. This is a present day story, so it happens in real, modern times. And how Marc deals with it is in a very modern way. So even though there's a reflection of the history, and of course it's Celtic because they were shapeshifting Celtic things that I used a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, I just kind of use that as a foundation for my own research to know it. But it's not that much is not quite in the book as much. It's more all about Marc and how he's doing it.
Okay, so as you said, you also mixed a Gothic love story into the dark fantasy of this book. So, what is it about kind of melding genres that appeals to you as a writer?
Well, I think it makes for a richer story when you have Gothic, when you have the dark fantasy part of the magic. Um, for me, when I read a story, I like something a little bit more than the straight story going forward. I like a little more intrigue that kind of goes off the rails a little bit and see what else they can do. So with this story, because you have the romance, because you have the shape shifting, and then you have witchcraft, and that's kind of the underbelly. So it has three elements in there that mix those genres in.
Yeah, it does make the story richer when you mix up genres. So, what's your favorite scene without spoilers in the book?
About the middle of the book, there is a scene because it's a forbidden marriage, and Marc's mother plays a role in this. Um, Kelsey invites her to have an Irish tea in the afternoon at her house, and this is a ghostly scene. And they invite Kelsey invites ghosts, the ancestral ghosts, to this tea on the sun porch. And there's fog and there's little hands and the ghost as a very ghostly presence. And there is a ghostly presence that happens to Charlotte in the scene. And I love that scene because it is so spooky. It diverts a little bit from the shape-shifting story and Marc and the romance. And here is this other woman who is determined to stop this marriage. And now she's bringing in the ancestral ghosts. And that's about the middle of the story. So it kind of peaks it up which of course you need in the middle of
Yeah,
a story.
kind of a paranormal version of getting the family approval.
Yes.
Okay, so did you find anything challenging about writing your book? Did a scene or a character give you any trouble?
Not really. It went along pretty well because I was building off the foundation of Draakensky. So a lot of it was already structured for me. I already had the characters working. I had the scene working. I had some of the elements from Draakensky were kind of redeveloped into the story. So it went pretty smoothly. I think the hardest thing for me is, and this is true for any novel, is getting the threads of the story, especially when you're working with a genre blend. You want everything to pull in and go smoothly for the reader. I don't want them to be jarred at all. So I think threading all the scenes and the characters and all the meaningful things that have to happen in so that they're natural and it has a flow. And sometimes I have to just do a whole nother reread and revision to get all of those threads even and comfortable.
When words on paper aren't scary enough, dive into Crystal Lake's selection of audiobooks, horror, thriller, and dark fiction the way it was meant to be heard. Now available on Audible and beyond. Warning, do not listen while home alone. Or do, we're not your parents.
Yeah, that can be tricky, all right, sometimes. So, is there a facet of writing fiction that is tricky for you in general, like dialogue or research or something like that?
Research, probably, because I do so much research. Um, and I have to research for myself just to know it. That's one thing I do, so that I'm not taking notes. I'm just reading and absorbing and just letting it become part of who I am as the writer. And then there's the research where you really want to get some facts and background and things like that so that you're making a lot of notes. And coordinating those two is always a difficulty. I mean, I have stacks and stacks of research, and it takes forever. I spend the early part of writing the novel researching so that when I start on that blank page, because I don't use an outline, I just sit down and write and just let the characters work on the page and let everything that I've learned, everything that I've researched come forward kind of in an organic way. So research is the hardest part, I think, and that takes the longest. And I spend so much time on it that I get to a point where I said, I have to stop. I have to make myself stop because I could keep researching. So that's always an issue.
Yeah, I know that feeling a lot.
I don't know enough. I do know enough, but you never feel like you know enough.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do something similar myself. I do basic general research, kind of immerse myself in whatever time period, because I write a lot of history-based stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
whatever time period I'm doing at the time, and then I started the writing, and as you're writing, even though you've done all this research, you're going to find stuff that you haven't researched.
Yes, I have to go back. Oh,
Yeah, make little notes if you're on the flow, and
yes.
So yeah, that's it's always tricky doing the research. All right, I give you that. So, what's the hardest challenge you've had to overcome in your writing life?
I think book marketing, reaching the readers. I'm really comfortable with writing a story, getting it done, polishing it up, working with editors, getting it really sharp. But once it gets all done and you have to get out there and you have to get it to readers, I always find that to be exhausting. And I'm not sure, what I'm doing really. Everything is a test and a trial, and I'll try this and I'll try that. So I do a lot of posting about the book and quotes and images and things like that. I work with storyboards all the time, so that helps me focus and keep it current so that I can keep it going. But I think book marketing and reaching readers, the kind of readers that are good for this book, because it's a genre blend, you're kind of reaching wide rather than just Gothic horror or rather than just romantic horror. So I'm pitching a little bit to fantasy readers. I'm pitching to Gothic readers. I'm pitching to romantic readers, and you can't pitch to them all at once. So that's difficult when you have a genre blend. And I'm not sure what readership is there. I mean, it's building, it's growing, it's becoming very popular now. So there is that. But Yeah, it's pitching to the reader is always a challenge. It takes a lot of analysis and I think trial and error.
Yeah, yeah, and I can understand definitely when you've got a genre blend, it's that much more difficult because yeah, you have to narrow down what your main target is and then kind of branch out from there. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So, what's your favorite aspect of being a writer?
I think the discovery of the story, when you don't really, I mean, I don't always know where the story's going. I don't always know what the next chapter is going to be. So, and I didn't know the ending to this chapter at all. I was very surprised at the last chapter. That to me is exciting. It's like, oh, who's telling me this story? I thought I was writing a story, but it's like someone else over here is writing the story and they're only giving me this much at a time. So I think it's discovering the story and discovering all the nuances that happened and where it's going. That's exciting.
Yeah. Are you a discovery writer or do you plot out your books?
I don't do any plotting, none. I mean, once I get that first draft out, it's just really hacked out. Then I will shift things around. I will make maybe just a very loose outline that this should move here, this should move here, this has to happen first. I'll kind of reorganize some of the stuff, but it's not really an outline. I don't have, chapter 1 and this is going to happen in chapter 2 and that's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in chapter 3. I sit with the blank page after chapter 2 and it's like, okay, now what? And then something occurs. I will reread what I've written and then something will spark and I'll just go from there.
Yeah.
It's kind of being in touch with your subconscious mind to some extent. It's like you just get really quiet and just let something come forward and then it does. And when it doesn't, it's always like, okay, I better leave the desk. I better go for a walk, something like that.
Yeah, I'm a plotter, but sometimes even when you're plotting, that you never know what's going to happen in the chapters because it's something those stupid characters will just change their motivations halfway through or something, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I didn't know that Marc's mother was going to be in this story. I hadn't planned that. And she just appeared at the door. It's like, who is this? What does she want? It's like, I was shocked. So yeah, things like that happen.
Yeah, I've had that happen. Characters suddenly show up and become important.
Yeah.
So, who are some of your favorite authors? Is there anything special on your to-read list this year?
Well, I do, I love the master writers and I read vintage fiction all the time. I still read Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Shelley and the modern authors, Deborah Harkness and let's see, there's so many. Right now I'm reading Japanese Gothic. I started that. It's a little slow. For me, a book, I like it to build and go up, but this is more of a wave where something happens and then it's quiet again. Something happens and it's quiet again. So it's a little bit slow. I think, my go-to is Joyce Carol Oates. I like her a lot, even though some of her stuff is too violent. Some of the body horror is a little too much for me. And I've been reading a lot of wolf stories because I've been promoting wolf books. So to get people more acquainted with that. And I'm reading The Wolves of Paris, which I like very much. So right now, a lot of wolf stories, and I'm reading more fantasy than I had before.
Yeah, I tend to read more fantasy than horror myself, but yeah, there's a lot of good fantasy books out there. I'm just saying.
Yes.
So tell us about some of the other books you've written.
Well, I wrote The Dazzling Darkness, which is about, it takes place in Concord, Massachusetts, and about a little boy who gets lost in a haunted cemetery. Concord, Massachusetts is perfect for a ghost story because of all the history they have with ghosts, with Nathaniel Hawthorne and Ralph Waldo Emerson and everything. So that was one of my first serious novels that I wrote. And then Nightsea Journey is about angels and demons and haunted dreams. Greylock is about a music phantom who haunts a musician from Boston to Russia to Mount Greylock. And then Skywolf is my fairy tale. And Skywolf is a white magical wolf. That got me started with wolves and my fascination with them. So Skywolf, and that's a free novelette on Amazon. Skywolf is in the fairy tale. Skywolf is in Draakensky, and Skywolf is also in Wolf Magick. So I've kind of carried that through.
So that they're all kind of related. So yeah.
Yes, yes.
So what's your next project? What can readers expect from you in the future?
There might be a third novel in the Draakensky series. I have notes. I have, the same characters. I'm doing a little bit of research, but I don't have anything really solid. And then I was thinking maybe I might do a series of short stories about the Draakensky characters and the storyline as it continues, and just make a collection of short stories of Draakensky. So I'm toying around with that. I will always keep writing. I'll probably be on my deathbed writing, I think. It's just something that I always have to do. So I will continue writing. And I do want to continue more with the characters of Draakensky because I don't feel like they're done yet. There's still more there. But whether it'll be a novel or a series of short stories, I don't know yet. I think I'm just exhausted from all the stuff I've been doing. So I need a break, and then I'll recover and see what really wants to come forward.
Yeah. Taking a break can be very good for your inspiration, and then all of a sudden an idea will come, and that's exactly what I have to do now. So yeah.
Yes. Then it starts all over again. Do I want to start all over again? Yes, no, maybe. I'm at that point.
Okay, so I think we'll wrap the interview up here. It was a pleasure chatting with you again.
Okay, thank you so much, Anita. It was a pleasure.
Okay, and that's it for this episode, and bye for now, everybody.
Bye.